Hello everyone, this is Ashley Tucker. Thank you for joining me today. Today I'm going to be working with this stamp set from Pink and Maine. This is called Sweet Bouquets and it actually isn't out yet. It's part of their upcoming release which comes out February 20th. So today is kind of a sneak peek for you guys. I took the two bouquets from the stamp set and I put them in my Misti tool and I stamped them on Bristol Smooth paper with Versamark ink, and then I embossed them with Alabaster white embossing powder from Brutus Monroe. I'm going to be coloring in these flowers using my Arteza Real Brush pens. I'm going to talk about how I colored in these images with my Arteza markers a little bit. If you want to find out more about the Arteza markers, I do have a really detailed video all about them, and I'll put a link to that up in the card above if you're interested. So like I said before, this is Bristol Smooth paper, which is my favorite kind of paper to use whenever I'm using my Arteza Real Brush pens. If you have the Arteza markers and you're struggling with them and you're not using Bristol Smooth paper, I would highly recommend getting some because it makes it so much easier. I think that because of the way that this paper is made and because it's so smooth, the pigment actually sits on top of it a lot longer and it takes a long time for it to actually absorb into the paper. So you have time to be able to move that pigment around and blend it. I used a really easy coloring technique for these flowers. I started by adding my color to the base of the petal, and then I took a water brush and I blended out that color to the end of the petal, and that creates a really nice gradient. I only used one marker in each of the sections. I didn't do any blending of two colors together. The water brush that I'm using is the Tim Holtz Fine Detailer water brush. And like always, I actually don't have any water in that water brush. I find it really difficult to use water brushes, so I just use it like a regular paintbrush. The reason that I use this water brush instead of a regular paintbrush is just because I really like how fine that brush is. You may have noticed that I have a paper towel off to the side there. I just use that to wipe off my brush in between colors so that I don't have any unwanted mixing. Before I start coloring, it's pretty difficult to see the image because it's embossed in that white embossing powder. Once I start adding the color, it gets a lot easier to see the image, and you'll see that that embossing actually resists the color that I'm laying down, and it makes it really easy to color. I decided to go with a really bright color palette for these bouquets. I used tomato red, lilac, orange, bumblebee yellow, light green, wine red, hot pink, and spearmint blue. I'm really looking forward to spring right now, so I kind of wanted the bouquets to look like springtime bouquets. Once I finished coloring all of the flowers on the first bouquet, I colored in all of the greenery using my light green marker. But I actually didn't color in all the way down the stems because I know that I'm going to be cutting them off, so they don't need any color. For the second bouquet, I used the same exact coloring techniques and colors. I absolutely love the look that you get when you emboss an image with a white embossing powder and then you add your coloring. If I were to stamp this image in a black ink and then color it, it would feel completely different. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with doing that. Sometimes that's the look that you're going for. I just feel like there's something really beautiful about the look of the embossed lines with all of the beautiful bright color around them. I also think that it really goes with that springtime look that I was aiming for. Again, with the second bouquet, I didn't have to color in the bottom part of the stems because I know that I'm going to be cutting them out later. Once I finished the coloring, I took the coordinating dies and I taped them in place using some post-it tape, and then I ran it through my Big Shot. Next, I took another piece of Bristol Smooth paper and I'm going to blend some Distress Oxide ink along the bottom of that panel. The color that I'm using is Twisted Citron. I used a very gentle hand here because I wanted that ink to slowly fade out into the white. I took one of the bouquets and I used a bunch of foam tape in order to adhere it to the bottom of that Distress Oxide ink panel. I used scissors to trim the bouquet so that it's flush with the edge of the panel. I took the other bouquet and I popped it up right next to that first one, and it does cover up most of that Distress Oxide ink, but you can kind of see it glowing in the background. I used a little liquid adhesive in order to glue down that one side that is on top of the other bouquet. Next, I took that panel and I put it in my Misti, and I'm going to stamp a sentiment from the stamp set which says thank you, and I stamped it with Simon Says stamp Intense Black ink. I used my ATG gun in order to adhere that panel onto a slightly larger panel of Rouge Cardstock from Brutus Monroe. I then took that whole thing and adhered it onto a card base, and as you can see, that Rouge Cardstock is slightly smaller than the card base, so that I have a nice frame around the edge. To finish up the card, I added a mixture of sequins. Some of the sequins that I used came from the Girl's Best Friend sequin mix from Simon Says Stamp, and the others came from the Pastel Paradise sequin mix from Lucy's Cards. I glued those down using my tweezers and my Gina K Designs Connect glue. And here's a closer look at the finished card. It's such a bright and cheery thank you card, and it makes me long for springtime. Thank you so much for watching today. I hope you really enjoyed this card design featuring a stamp set from Pink & Main's upcoming release. That release comes out on February 20th, and all of the other supplies that I used can be found in the description down below. If you're new to my channel and you enjoyed watching today, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so that you can see all of my future videos. Again, thank you for watching. I appreciate all of you, and I hope you have a good day today.